I'll take this one. How is everybody?
Good.
Oh, wow. Y'all are really tricky, you Creative Mornings people. Very, very tricky. Okay, first of all, I want to just a little disclaimer. I am not an expert on creativity, okay? Or spirituality. So if you really wanted an expert, you have not gotten that. So I just thought I would just put that out there. So we talk about breath, yeah? It's the first thing we forget, right? Especially with these masks and all of the things that are going on in our minds. So let us take a collective breath right now. Let's roll those shoulders back, suck in some of this good air. And let it out. Let's do another one because that was not enough. Yes. Yes. Spirituality, what is it? What is it? I was raised in the church. I was raised in a Baptist church. So I can tell you there is a big divide between religion and spirituality. Sometimes they live in close orbit and sometimes not so much. Sometimes not so much. So I looked up several definitions, all of which were lacking in some way. But I do know you know spirituality sometimes when it is not present. So check your IG to see what folk are saying about your post. Probably not so much. When I undress myself totally, shake away all those things that are reflected in the mirror, all that stuff I believe myself to be. Friend, mother, woman, grandmother, wife. Yes, I said wife. What is left? These questions pointed me in the direction of spirituality. My husband, Phil, my beloved, died in 2019. 6 months later, my sister, Debbie. And I was, for the first time in my life, alone. All one alone. Life-changing, soul-rending event. And it was the quiet, the awful, terrible, scary, raw quiet that ushered in these big questing thoughts. What am I doing here? In my solitude, you haunt me. You haunt me. You haunt me. The quiet allowed me to listen deeply. Now, I'm not a meditation person. I am not that chick. Sitting in the lotus position just makes me think about everything but nothing. Emptying the garbage, what's for dinner, my to-do lists, taking up all that space. I have to breathe. I have to have an agenda, count to 6, something like that. But this kind of quiet, this COVID attenuated quiet, coupled with my grief, was like deep, deep river, Lord. Deep, deep river, Lord. This grief opened a territory, a deep river that I had to cross. My writer's voice, my singer's voice came rushing through. through my podcast, which I didn't even know really what that was. I was sharing with a friend of mine, these stories and these dreams and these visions. She said, "Girl, that's a podcast." I was like, "Really? It's kind of personal, you think?" A beautiful recording came through. This all came through on the wings of grief. I'm trying to tell you, unintended, these things became a part of my soul's purpose. Messy work. So if you want some organized, clean, all wrapped up nicely work, this is not for you. Non-linear. Nothing you would ask to happen happened. This, my loves, is madness in the best way you can imagine, because it shakes up everything you think is real. Can we say seen and the unseen? The seen and the unseen. The seen and the unseen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you always like that. What did she? Does she want us to say it like she said it? Because we ignore the unseen, we miss our blessing. We pretend it's just us in this room, us in our bodies. This room is full. This room is full. And your spirit eyes let you see that truth. When Grandma talked about the Holy Spirit, she wasn't talking about haints and ghosts. She was talking about that essence, that thing that you cannot speak of because you don't exactly know what it is, but you can feel it rushing through your bones. You can feel it. You can feel it rushing through your bones. I was changed by my experience, changed fundamentally on a cellular level. And so I began to write in the quiet of my life, in my sorrow. Questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What is this thing, life? And what remains in the space between here and after? When I undress myself, when I look with the spirit eyes, what is left? These bodies. We live in these bodies, these castles of flesh. We die in these bodies, flashing past post and beam, breath and bone. Unleashed, we fly toward open soul windows. Hallelujahs clapping as we ring past. We live in these bodies. We die in these bodies. But beloveds, we are not these bodies. We are spirit beings having a temporary, fleshy experience. So you don't have to look for spirituality. It is who you are. You don't have to go to a place far from here and sit in the lotus position thankfully to find it. It is who you are. It is your superpower. We think about technology, don't we? Technology is something that we hold in our hands, something we buy at the Apple store, something we can purchase. But guess what? Meditation is technology because it changes things. Prayer is technology because it changes things. We do not think of it in those terms, but that is exactly what it is. Music is technology. because it changes the molecules in your body. A rose is technology. It says, come here, come here, come here, smell me, touch me. I am a rose. That, my beloveds, is spirituality. A turtle, a hawk, the eyes of a baby, the eyes of an elder. The suspension of belief has proven to be absolutely necessary for my grief journey. The imagination of my broken heart has caused all sorts of terrestrial goings-on to show up for me. Trees, turtles, dragonflies, hawk feathers, rainbows, crickets, eggplants have all displayed a generosity of spirit. This, my beloveds, is spirituality. The natural world throwing her heavy body on me, coming forth with stories, large and small. Every living and non-living thing, twisting, turning, showing me its face, peeking between the cracks in the walls that I built. Even the rocks cry out, rocks are gonna cry out, glory and honor, glory and honor, ain't got time to die. Even the rocks cry out in storied grief and joy. The moon, the stars, parallel universes, they all spin story. Spirit story. We've been dining on forgetting. Oh, we good at forgetting. We forget our place in this ever-spinning wheel of life. We think we exist somewhere apart from this, and it just ain't true. The portal, the door you walk through, is sacred. The door in 21C, the door to your home, the doors, they are all sacred. Every door is a manifesting doorway. What happens when you walk through it? How is the atmosphere changed? Because you are in the room. You may hesitate. Grief is a doorway. I know I hesitated. I was afraid. I didn't want to give myself permission to walk through. But it is a soul doorway, beloveds. I am telling you, it is a soul doorway that has nothing to do with time. It sits apart from time. Always, always, always in the ever now. In the ever now. In the ever now. In the ever now. I wrote a poem. I'm gonna read it. See, that's the thing about being a poet. All you gotta do is write a poem. And there you are. It may not be a good poem, but you are a poet right then. This poem is called After Time. After time. We will watch with our hearts instead. After time, spring will be just what happens when daffodils raise their heads in yellow laughter and bluebirds gossiping return. After time, we will gather all the wasted and the lost. We will build fires and melt them down to a thick, sweet gravy. After time, it will be difficult to call your arrival expected, early, or late. We will be surprised, annoyed, or happy, and that is all. After time, yesterday will be unthinkable, and tomorrow a fairy tale. After time, I will no longer scratch memory's face for something too small to be you. That was the end of the poem. We need the poetry of life to live fully in this moment. And some things can only happen inside of a poem or a story. I am writing a book that is as unbelievable to me because I didn't see myself as a writer, but walking through this doorway, these gifts are there and they are wanting to be expressed and they are asking me to be the expressor. And so I'm just being obedient. This is a piece from my forthcoming book, which is called A Little Book of Great Grief. And it's called Turtle. I thought it was a stone. It looked just like a stone. From my bottom of the hill vantage point, a large stone in the middle of the driveway that wasn't there last night. Upon approach, it began lumbering slowly up the hill, so I figured it couldn't be a stone, at least not the normal kind of stone. Turned out the stone was actually a turtle. She stretched her bespeckled neck, observing me, opening and closing her mouth that looked like a pair of old green pliers. Was she yawning? Was I boring? Trying to communicate? Clearly, she didn't consider me a threat as she continued holding me with her alien eyes. Finally, bored or needing to attend to more pressing matters, she stretched her surprisingly long legs and propelled herself forward. Whatever was calling her to this task must have been very important, even essential. Hers was will of life, survival energy, kind of energy. She must, I thought, be searching for a place to lay her eggs. Why not lay them where you spend most of your days and nights, I wondered. Why not squirt them out in large numbers, high enough to ensure that some will survive? A gamble, for sure, but certainly not one greater than the one which involves climbing my driveway in broad daylight and risking being run over by my Subaru. Her eggs also share in this dangerous venture. Even if she finds a suitable spot to bury them, they could still become a tasty meal for a raccoon or a fox. But Turtle Girl kept it moving, paying no mind to my musings about her fate or turtle futures, survival rates, and alternative egg-laying strategies. She was, in every sense, playing the hand she was dealt. Climbing the hill may have only played a bit part in the script of her life. Her face betrayed no emotion. If she was frustrated or annoyed, angry with her assignment, I could not tell. Judging by the large numbers of turtles lined up on the half-submerged log on the tree in the lake, this ancient plan was working quite well. What if I could, without judging or resisting, just play the hand I was dealt? Read the cards of fate that spell out this part of my life that feel like lumbering up a steep hill. I'm sure the turtle was tired because it was hot. Long and slow climb. I followed her. I watched as she reached a mossy patch. She stopped, unperturbed by my nosiness, and breathing heavily. Now, I'm not an expert on turtle breathing, but it seemed like she was breathing heavily. She rested a bit, gathered herself for a few moments. Presumably restored, she stretched out her legs and resumed her mission. Not once did she look back at the road she'd already traveled. Some deep calling urged her ever forward, some song whose melody I wished was in my range of hearing was playing. I watched until she disappeared beneath a mass of twigs and leaves. There, in the cool, dark canopy of the trees, I thanked her for a powerful moment in my own grief journey. I wished her well, and I hoped she would find a safe nest for her belly full of eggs. This is a moment that really happened. This is not fiction. This is a slice of a day. And I read it to you because it's proof that spirit will accompany you if you let it. If you let it. I wouldn't have had any time to look at turtles or anything else if it hadn't been for this very special quality of time and the special quality of my brain cells at that moment, where I was willing to slow down and check out what was always happening around me. The creative spirit makes a way out of no way. Imagination being the superpower. I tried being strong. You're not strong enough. I tried time. They say it takes time. I tried patience. I tried ignoring things. I tried this and that. In the end, imagination created a space for me to be with spirit, to flourish, to grow. I remember you. I Remember You is the name of an old standard with a Johnny Mercer lyric. It's a song I've sung on occasion, and it's also a soul activity that I engage in every day. I'm learning to be open to receiving you daily, hourly, and sometimes moment to moment. And every time upon your arrival, it feels like recreation. Memories, yeah, they play a part, but memory alone is remarkably unreliable. And sometimes they're out of it at the corner store. I've heard more than once lately, it's on back order, supply issues, you know. Sometimes sensing you in exquisite detail as often as I do requires sturdier materials than memory. The past is written on flimsy paper. And if you use the same ones over and over, they begin to degrade, ripping and tearing. The time-smudged pages become quite worn after a while. And well, they just make you feel some kind of long ago and far away sad. To remember is to accept you again and again within the puzzle of my life. To experience you afresh in new, interesting, and pleasurable ways. I reach for you and find you in the call and response, the daily call and response. It's exciting to notice the ways in which you show up as unmistakably yourself in the now. You, beloved Phil, you are my new discovery, a region of previously uncharted space. I will boldly go with a lover's imagination. Your intricate patterns, no longer encased in solid form, are expansive, universal, and real. You are the gathering dream, a vast living world. Curious, I cannot resist you. I am at once conjurer and explorer, eager for you, and those sensations turning at the rim of the unknowable. You are open door to flowering visions, new formations, right here, right now. I remember you. That's Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, beloveds. Thank you, beloveds. I think we're supposed to be doing a Q&A now.
Yes.
They don't have any questions?
So yes, if you have questions, let me pass you the microphone. Oh, sure.
Hi, my name is Janine Thompson. I work at WUNC. And Nnenna, I want to say wonderful to see you in person, and thank you for everything you've done with the Great Grief podcast. And my question is, what can we look forward to with season 2? I know that that's coming up soon.
Oh, thank you for asking about Great Grief, the podcast. So, season 2 is coming in October. Did I say October? Yes. I did. We are working on it as we speak. And in October, we're going to have a conversation, more conversations with Grief herself. Because don't nobody ever ask her nothing. And she's feeling horribly, horribly misunderstood. And so she's going to tell us what she sees from her perspective. Like, why y'all always trying to run away from me? How come I don't never get invited to the wine sip? Why can't I be shown some love? So, yeah, she has a little attitude, but what you gonna do? What you gonna do? That's our sister roll. And we're also gonna just be exploring grief as it's a part of life. I'm trying to decolonize grief. Stop talking about it like it's something that happens to other people and it doesn't touch us. It is a creative space like none other. She's asking us to dance. Now, true, we don't know the steps. That's true. It's true we barefoot and she got on boots. That's true. But engaging grief is engaging life. And I'm not going to pretend it's easy. There's no bow to put on it. But I do know that the creativity that we all have in our spirits helps us navigate, helps us move with it. And griefs come, nobody has to die for you to be grieving. The planet's grieving, grief is in the air. Let's not pretend it isn't. There are all kinds of changes and losses that put that on our hearts, and we have to acknowledge it. So we're going to be exploring generational grief, old grief. Oh, she the worst. She the worst. Because she been waiting and she tapping her foot like this. She like, it's been 20 years and you haven't even looked in my direction. So thank you for asking about that. But look for us on WUNC in October. The podcast is, my partner is WUNC Radio. And it can be found wherever podcasts are found. All the platforms, Stitcher, Apple, all them. Mama and them, all them.
Okay, who's got another question? No microphone. You just
Hey, Nnenna.
Yes, hey.
Hey, how would you suggest or recommend, encourage us to translate those feelings of grief into creativity, and how does grief inform creativity, and how does creativity inform grief? You already spoke a little bit about that. How do we translate that?
It's a beautiful question, and only you can answer it. Sorry. Yeah, don't you hate it when people do that? You have all the answers you seek. It's the truth, though. It's the truth. There are no wrong answers, which people don't like. People like, you mean I can't win? What do you mean there's no wrong answers? I need there to be a wrong answer so I can tell you the right answer so I can get an A. It's not like that. Your grief, if you sit with it and ask it what it wants, it will tell you. You just have to ask and wait for the answer. I mean, it could be something as simple as using your hands, baking some bread, making a cake. That's one of my favorites, sweet potato pie. living your life, taking a walk, being kind to someone, sitting still, being kind to yourself by saying no. Ooh, Lord, no is a love word. Just being able to say no and feel okay with that and step back and smile and keep it moving, that's self-love. Even the moon. You didn't see no moon last night, did you? She was chilling. She was like, look, I need a break, y'all. It's been 29 days. I need to rest. If we look at the new moon and we say to ourselves, gee, even the moon take a break. But we just like, steady going. Anybody else? Yes?
What would you go back and tell yourself, knowing what you know now, what practices would you go back and recommend that you would have put into place in your life prior to losing your husband?
Wow. That's a really interesting question. I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't be here like I am if I had. Everything you know and everything you don't know is cool. And if you want to know more, ask for more. If you want to know less, ask for less. You know what I'm saying? There's no way to fix it. That question implies if I knew it, I would have done this, which would have made me be there, which would have made... But the thing don't work like that. That thing don't work like that. If you give yourself permission to be okay where you are with what you know and what you don't know, not waiting for something extra to be added onto it, but just saying, you know what, this is what it is, but then when I look at my life and I say, this right here needs to change, the universe will only agree with you and say, oh, you want, but I've been getting conflicting information here because you were like, change it, don't change it, change it, don't change it. Now you're saying change it for real. Universe will say, oh, okay. Bam. It is changed. So, yeah, I wouldn't go back because then I wouldn't be quite as fabulous as I am now. Beloved. Can everybody just say, Shana Taka?
Nnenna, this is your day. Listen, I want to know, how do you tell, because the world feels like, to me, it feels like the world forces us to rush through grief, right? Hurry up and it's fine, it's okay. What would you recommend for people who struggle with, like, not wanting to rush through grief, but the world, work, personal is telling us, like, just hurry up and get over it? What would you recommend, some ways to respond to that?
Wow, that's an awesome question. First of all, girlfriend don't have no watch. She don't have no compass. She don't have no yardstick. None of that. So if somebody tells you, hurry up and get over with it, they're talking about something they know nothing about. Grief does not respect time because grief lives outside of time. And we made up time anyway. We made that up. That ain't real. Ask yourself what happened in 2020 and 21 and most of 22. You don't have no explanation for it. The calendar says a certain number of days have passed, but I swear, it's like yesterday was 2019 for me. You live in a space of contracted experience of time. So give yourself permission to be with whatever you're feeling, because grief truly, you know how there are subdivisions in music, pulsations underneath time? So you better, if you're a good musician, be aware of them. But you don't want to beat the drum on them. You let them bubble. So as you're going along in your life, things are bubbling. You feel those subdivisions. It's been 3 years. I should be feeling, should be's and wannabes. Throw them out because they don't make no honey. Growl.
I want to ask about grief and motherhood. I'm a mother of children. I lost my dear cousin, I call my older sister, in 2018. And that was such a difficult thing to navigate, grieving in front of children or experiencing my children's grief because that was their elder too. So what has that exchange taught you? What is that, how have you navigated that?
We hide the things we fear. If we would hide love from our children, would we? Then we do not hide grief. I grieve my husband daily because he deserves to be missed. And I deserve to miss him. Now there's some people who pass on you like, good. Gone, 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 gone. And glad about it. That doesn't mean you get away clean without grieving, because when something's been complicated, you still have to grieve, right? But inviting our children into a mourning space and giving them something to do with it. Can you make a memory tree? Can we talk about what we love about cousin? Can we draw a picture? Can we do a dance? What would cousin have said? These kinds of things celebrate the life that is now not present. And when we go around not speaking of it, we actually are teaching. We are teaching our children that it is not okay to talk about it. When we shut them down, we teach them this is a taboo area. Don't go there. Somebody said to me, I remember, this is just an aside, so I went to get my hair did, and the lady was, hey, how you doing? I've been seeing you a while. Yeah, I'm good, how you doing? And she's getting, doing my hair. And we talked about the weather, and we talked about Charlotte Hornets, and we really went far to talk about everything, but I was like, my husband died, right? She said, yes, but I didn't want to mention it. I didn't want to make you feel sad. I'm like, you make me feel sad? You can't cause that to happen. I live in a space of sadness and joy and all of that. You don't make that happen, but when you don't speak of it, that's like worse, right? That's the thing that makes you feel like there's an elephant or several elephants in the room, and it creates a dynamic, that is not good. It was like, my hair's not really gonna be clean. You ain't gonna wrench it all the way out if we're not straight with each other, right? So, just being honest and not to assume that children are not brilliant. They feel it. They smell it. If it be smelling strange, they be smelling it. They be like, am I the only one who can smell it? So just being open, and if there are things you don't know, we are so slow in saying we don't know. We don't want to say it, but just take a deep breath, fix your jaw, and say, I don't know. And it's okay. Let's figure it out together. Y'all have been so beautiful. Was there one more question, or are they gonna kick us out of the 21? So y'all can keep asking questions, but you're gonna have to ask them on the straight. Everybody good?
Thank you.